This podcast contains potentially sensitive topics, including strong language, drug and sexual abuse, as well as other conditions of human suffering. Listener discretion is advised.
A lot of women couldn't do what I did. I would say most women couldn't, because it's a hard job. It's dangerous, of course, but you have to know the law and you have to be a cutie, because they don't arrest you as much. They don't want to believe that you would do that. You just have to know what you're doing, and it's a tough little job.
I'm Rex Holbein, and welcome to You Know Me Now, a podcast conversation that strives to amplify the unheard voices in our community. For the past 12 years, I have met and spent a great deal of time with thousands of folks living homeless. There have been countless life-changing for me conversations and friendships that were gained. Through those experiences, I learned how destructive and baseless the dehumanizing effects of the negative stereotype are against ordinary people who are really just like you and me. I want to remind all of our listeners that the folks who share here do so with a great deal of vulnerability and courage. They share a common hope that by giving all of us a window into their world, they're opening an increased level of awareness, of understanding, and connection within our own community.
I was born in 51. That's 1951. I was the fourth child. There were 6 siblings altogether. 1 boy, 5 girls. And we were all blondes. We were all cute.
Where did you grow up? What city?
White Center.
Okay, so you're from Seattle.
Yeah, I'm from Seattle. I'm original.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, oh, really? I didn't know that.
How old are you?
I'm 70.
God, you look good. You really look good.
Thank you.
So you're 70 years old. You have all this life experience, and I would honestly say you've got more experiences than most, right? I mean, I think you've lived a pretty full life.
I have, pretty much. I've enjoyed it. I'd do the same thing over again.
Yep. In this episode, I want you to meet Auntie. I first met her when she was sitting on the back bumper of a truck in the Soto neighborhood in Seattle. She was bent over, rocking back and forth, holding her wrist and wincing, obviously in a great deal of pain. When I came up to her, I asked her if she was okay, and she said, "I need to go to the hospital. I think my wrist is broken." At the hospital, we learned her wrist was fortunately not broken, rather only sprained. However, her vitals were not stable enough for her to be released, and because of it, she spent the next 3, or I think it was 4 days, in a hospital bed there. In that short time of her hospital stay, she lost her RV, the one that was her home. It had been impounded, and with no funds to get it out, it was now simply gone, along with everything else she owned. About a week later, I found Auntie again in the Soto neighborhood. She was now sitting on an old truck bench seat that had been pushed up against a cyclone fence along the railroad tracks. She was smoking a cigarette, just hanging out. When she saw me, she yelled out with joy, like we had been friends forever, despite the fact that we had only met once. But this is the thing about Auntie. She has a charisma and a charm to her, one that she'll tell you has been with her whole life and that she holds tight to, using it when needed. By the time I met Auntie, she was at the very bottom of her life journey, being homeless, sick and in chronic pain, addicted to heroin, but still unbelievably charming. Auntie now lives in subsidized senior housing. She sat down with me to share a bit of her interesting life story with all of you. You're a pretty positive person.
Yeah, I'm positive.
I mean, I've seen you in some pretty low times.
You seen me really bad.
Yeah, sleeping on cardboard in the middle of winter on pavement. And you were still smiling.
Yeah, of course you gotta smile. You can't sit and cry, because it's gonna get you nowhere.
I asked Auntie to begin by telling us about her childhood.
I was a girl. I say boy, but I was a girl, but I was really tough. My brother was a year older than me, just a year. So I learned to beat up him, so I was good.
Were your mom and dad a good pair? Did they love each other?
If he didn't drink, they would have been a good pair. But he drank too much, and, he'd sit at the bar, and he would flirt. Mom told me to get in the car. She drove down to a bar. She seen him. I seen him. And she goes, jump in the back seat, the station wagon. So I did. She goes, you keep your head down. Yeah, right. Of course, my head's up like this one, and I'm watching. And my mom could have busted that woman right off her seat, but she didn't. She just picked him up by the ear and said, come on. But she took care of him. She,
Kept him in line.
Kept him in line, yeah, when she had to. She was one beautiful lady. She took care of us all. And very nicely, I would say. She didn't work. She stayed in the house with us kids. And my father worked. We lived just like regular people. We didn't have no special things.
Can you tell me one or two or whatever things that you loved about your mother?
She was overweight, but I would always take my arms and put them around her waist and say, oh, yeah, you're losing weight, And I'd do that, do check with her like that every once in a while. Well, I didn't realize my arms were getting longer,
Okay, that is very funny.
Yeah.
As you were getting bigger, she was getting thinner.
Yeah.
Did she laugh a lot? Was she a good
Oh,
laugher?
yeah, she laughed. She loved me a lot. I mean, I would get in trouble, and I'd get on restriction, of course. And then I wouldn't talk to my mother. I'd go and work next to her, and I wouldn't speak at all. She hated it. She go, okay, you're off restriction. Okay, Mom, how you doing,
Because you were friends, and she wanted to talk with you.
Yeah, oh yeah, we talked all the time.
Your mother sounds wonderful.
She was a happy-go-lucky people. I love her to death. Father would come home. He'd stay out and get drunk. Well, he'd get home and he'd be, like a drunk man. And he would do something, throw the TV out the window or something. Mother'd just go buy another one. Because he was a welder, yeah, so he made good money.
And sometimes we would just throw the TV out the window?
Yeah, because they were fighting. When they came home, they'd fight, so he'd throw the TV out the window. But we'd always be in the bedrooms. As kids, we'd scatter.
Was he
happened.
Was he violent that way, other than just throwing the TV?
He didn't hit any of us.
Yeah.
He didn't hit Mother.
Yeah, he just had to.
He vented by throwing the TV out. He threw a few of them out. He came home drunk a few times. So she would, she fought back. She terrorized back. She was verbal. She didn't hit him. There was no violence like hit.
So she was a tough cookie.
Yeah, she was a tough cookie.
Kind of like you.
Kind of like me, yeah.
When Auntie was 15, her mother became suddenly sick. It was a pivotal moment in her life.
When she went to the doctors, she was laying down, I don't know, she was just sick. I gave her a bath, got her dressed, and took her across the street for she could go to the doctors. And she must have had premonition of something, because she asked me what flower I liked the best, and she just, asked questions that you don't ask. And she made me promise to graduate, and I wanted to go out and smoke, so I said, here she is, I'm going to go. But, I gave her a kiss, and she left. And next thing I knew, I heard my father walking up the walkway, and he was crying. And he goes, "Get up, your mother just is dead." He was very rude. It was very horrible the way he said it. You know, like he didn't even care. So that was a very tight moment for me. But yeah, I loved her very dearly. So I think she had pretty much she knew. And she got to the doctor's office. I guess she told the neighbor to stop. And so she had to catch her breath. And she stopped the car. My mother got out of the car, stood up, and then went right down to the ground. She died of a blood clot. She was, boom, dead, dropped like a fly. It was horrible. You know, I'm glad I didn't see it. That is one thing I'm glad. You know, yeah, I loved my mom greatly. You know, she was a good woman. She passed away with her when I was 15. Yeah, so the whole family went, psst, because I broke it up. I had to.
Wait a minute.
My father was gonna, he told me to get in my mother's bed. Like I was gonna do that. I don't think so.
What do you mean by he told you to get in your mother's bed? What does that mean?
Because he was gonna crawl in and do me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I knew he was gonna rape me. And that's why I said, no way, and I got out of there. You know, I mean, I was ready to fight him. He tried to push me in that bed, I pushed back. I hit him. I didn't care. You know, he was not gonna rape me. He was not gonna put me in my mother's bed. You're fucking crazy, you idiot. You know, I fought back. Most girls don't, but I fought back. And I told him to fuck off, you know, and I had to punch him. And I did, you know. And of course I wasn't going to go do that. It's just, I was not raised like that. My mother, you know, she taught us better than that. And, I mean, I was just smarter than that. And so you have to be able to put your foot down on certain things, you know. I called my aunt, got my little sisters out of there, and I went to my other aunt's. And we talked to the police, and they were going to put him in jail and prison. But my grandma begged me not to do it. That changed everybody's life because I separated the family completely. I wouldn't let my sisters go back in the house, young ones. They stayed with my aunt and uncle for years. I went to my aunt and uncle's, but she got jealous of me because I had bigger boobs than her. You know, it was terrible. So I went to the youth center. She put me in the youth center, and so I was there for like 40 days and 40 nights. It wasn't bad if you ruled the nest, and I ruled the nest, you know, in there. There was a girl wearing a pair of cutoffs, and I wanted them, so I took them. This one lady told her in there, one girl said, "Do you know what she's in here for?" And she said, "She's in here for fighting black people. She knifed them." You know, and so she told that girl that story, and so she didn't mess with me.
You had a reputation.
Yeah, so I had a reputation in there of really busting shit up, you know. That was funnier than heck. I don't know why they believed her.
So you must have had some attitude.
I could talk my shit. You know, I can talk the shit. And I can follow through if I have to.
1967 was a really difficult year for Auntie. She was just 15 years old and had to deal not only with the death of her mother, but also several weeks before the passing of her grandmother, who she was very close to and was also living with the family. Additionally, before Auntie was moved to the youth center, only a few weeks after her mother died, her father, unbelievably, remarried.
We had to accept her because she moved into our house. And so that didn't work out too well, so we had to put her somewhere else. So we put her in prison. Just we didn't want to deal with it, so but we got rid of it, so we didn't have to.
Okay, I gotta ask. You can't just let that one lie on the table. How is it that she ended up in prison?
She was married to another man too. She married my father. They were going to get his money and rob him and take it all.
Wait a minute. She was married to another man.
Yes.
But then pretended to be single and married your father, and the whole thing was a scam.
It was a scam. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
And you guys all exposed it somehow.
Well, I did because she thought I was a dumbass 16-year-old. She asked me to go along with her this day. He was visiting her husband because she took me to his workplace. They were talking, and I heard the talk. Even though I was sitting away from them, I cranked my ears up and listened, really hard. We had to do something because we just didn't like the lady. Bitch, is what I would call her. Because people like that I just don't care about. In my world or anybody else's world. That's just wrong.
But she wasn't in love with your father. She was...
No, she was stealing him. Yeah, oh yeah. So no, she didn't love him. I don't think he loved her. It was just a woman in the house because he had never lived without a woman. And, we could tell she was using him. You could see it. You could see what she was doing. She was planning a wedding. They just seen him in a bar and said, let's hit on him. He lost his wife. That's what they did. They hit on people. Because she was married to a couple other guys as well.
And your father? How did it hit your father?
And boy, he was not a happy man. He was hurt, and he was pissed because she was only wanted him for theft.
And how are you doing? That's a lot to handle at 15, 16 years old. Like, you broke the family up for good reason.
Yeah, for a great reason.
Yeah, for great reason. And then you go to a youth center, and you're 16, right?
Yeah.
Can you share what your thoughts or feelings were during that time? Because I'm telling you, if I was doing that at 16, I probably would have spent half my time on the couch crying.
No, I didn't have time for that. You just don't have time for it sometime.
You just pick yourself up.
You can't feel sorry for yourself when you have to figure out what you're going to do. So that's what I just did it, But, yeah, Lois and Rainer came and got me, and I was, somebody loves me,
And they were good to you?
Oh, yeah, very good. That was Mother's best friend. Of course she's got to be good to me. Yeah. Otherwise, Mother would have never liked her, So, yeah, she was good to me, and Maynard was.
After Auntie moved in with Lois and Maynard, her life got a bit calmer and a bit more stable. They enrolled Auntie into school.
They put me in school right away, so I didn't miss a beat, really. I wasn't real smart, but I was smart enough. But I worked on getting good grades, It wasn't easy to me either, but I knew I had to work hard. Then I met a dude, and then I married him.
And how old were you when you married him?
18.
Yeah. And did you graduate? Did you get your high school diploma?
Not at that time. But I was trying to go to school still, and I changed schools because I lived in a different area with him. And so I went to the 11th grade, and that's when I quit, is in 11th grade.
And why did you drop out?
Because it was just too hard to, it was getting just too much for me. So I just, screw this. And I skated for a long time, without getting a diploma. But I finally went in and took, the class. So I went in and I passed that test with a good A. And that was just common sense. Is all that was.
Yeah. How old were you when you went back and did that?
I got that when I was in my 40s. Yeah, but I got it
Because it was important to you? What? I mean, when you're in
Because my mom made me promise to graduate. You know,
you were keeping your promise to your mom.
So I kept that promise to her, yes. You know, it may have been a little bit later in life than she expected, but I got it. I wasn't pregnant when I got married. Because I wouldn't get married if I was pregnant. Because I would never have let a man say I had to marry you. There's just no way I would do that. A few of my friends had to get married because they were pregnant, you know.
Because you wanted to know that he was marrying you because he loved you.
Yeah.
Not because he was obligated.
Because he had to, yeah.
Makes sense.
And I was just that kind of girl, and I didn't went around screwing people. You know, I had pride in mine. And so that's the way I was brought up, you know, until 16. And then, but, you know, I was faithful to my mom in ways that, you know, we lived, you know. People just don't do that now.
Were you in love? Like really in love?
I thought I was really in love, yeah. It lasted quite a while.
How long?
12 years.
Auntie and her first husband bought a house together in White Center and had 2 children. But things changed when her husband got injured working at a heavy steel industrial shop.
Yeah, but then he just, he pooped out on his youngness. You know, he got hit in the head with a sheet of steel. And he was lucky there was 2 tables, steel tables there. Otherwise he would have been crushed. But it hit his head and it blew his ears out. It hurt him pretty bad. So he was laid up for a bit, and that was okay. You know, I took care of him.
So, Auntie, your husband gets injured, and you guys are still in the house. What?
We're still married. We were still married.
Yep.
And so we did the best to be happy. But he went to work and back. And I wasn't working, you know, there for a while. Which was fine. He made enough money, you know.
And it sounds like eventually you got divorced.
Yeah.
You guys kind of fell out of love, or...
Yeah, it wasn't mutual. I fell out of love with him. It was what it was. And I had to go. So I gave him everything. You know, I didn't want anything. Even though that was my dream home. He had said he was going to kill himself. And I wasn't going to have it. You know, he's not going to put that on me.
While still married to her first husband, Auntie became involved with another man.
He was my best friend's boyfriend for a while, so he was like family. They just put us together too many times. You know, made us do this together, made that together. And so we just started doing things together, and... You know, we joined a bowling team. They were supposed to be right in with us because we all decided we're going to be bowling team. They didn't feel like it. You know, they pushed us together, you know, too much.
One thing leads to another.
And yet one thing does lead to another. Because he was my best friend's boyfriend, if you can understand that.
Yep.
And that hurt her badly when we told her. But we had to tell her, you know, that we were seeing each other.
And did you also tell your husband? Was that part?
Oh, you keep busting me. I mean, I had my clothes on, so, you know, it wasn't like I was naked. But, you know, yeah, he walked in and there I was, laying there sleeping like a baby. And all of a sudden, he jumps on me. You know. He didn't jump on the guy, tried to beat the guy up. He tried to beat me up. But he didn't hurt me or anything, you know. He was very, very, very hurt about that. My marriage was done, you know. I mean, and I'm glad it was, you know. I'm glad we got busted. Because then everything came... You know, to the top. Yeah. And,
life gets complicated, doesn't it?
It is complicated, let me tell you. Don't go through that.
I'll try to remember that.
At this time in her life, Auntie was working as a preschool teacher and enjoyed her time with the kids. She really loved her job.
That's about all I ever did.
Were you good?
I was very good at it.
I would imagine, actually.
Yeah. And then...
I bet the kids loved you.
They did. The teachers were jealous of me because I could go out and ask for anything. I didn't care. I was walking down the street and they was coming out of the shop and they was owned it. And I go, oh, if I bring a bunch of children down here, would you talk to them? And, so they'd say yes. And I did it to a fish and chip shop over at okay. So I asked him if the classroom would come down. And he goes, yeah, I could handle that. And I go, okay, thank you. My little cute voice. And
Were you a charmer?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I could get almost anything I wanted.
In addition to being a preschool teacher, Auntie also had another job. She, in fact, had a secret life that she kept from the outside world. To put it simply, Auntie was very good at selling drugs. She was a drug dealer. When I asked about her earliest memories of being around drugs, she began by sharing that her parents allowed her to drink beer in the house from time to time while growing up. It was then she realized she could make some side money by selling the beer rather than drinking it.
I would take a beer. I would get a 6-pack in a week. And I'd take it to school and sell it because I could make money. But it's not like I was stealing because otherwise I would have drank it, So I figured, well, it's mine. So that's why I took a 6-pack.
And just turned it to cash.
Made sense to me.
And can you talk a little bit about the progression of that? First beer, and then how did it move forward in your life?
Well, we always had parties at our house, my husband and I. So that was early on. When, right after we got married. I just run into people and they give us dope and shit. And pot, and my husband had a friend. She was, asked me if I'd go for a ride with her. And I go, yeah, not a problem. And so I jumped in her car and she was out picking up pounds of dope. And I go, nice.
Dope meaning marijuana.
Marijuana, yeah. And so, I bought a couple pounds off her. I started selling lids, and that's what they were called back then.
Yep, I remember that.
Lids.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you are 20 years old or 19? 18. Okay.
Yeah, I was still 18. Yeah. So I just started doing selling pot. Then I'd trade for this, for that. Well, I ran into a guy that sold speed. So, of course, I bought that. And that was a good sale. That was easy money. I got up to where I was buying a pillow of speed.
A pillow's worth, a pillowcase.
Yeah, a pillow is...
I don't know what a pillow is.
Thousands of pills, yeah.
Did you have moments during the time selling drugs that were both either very scary for you or just hilarious, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened?
Oh yeah.
Can you share a few of those stories?
My husband and I got stopped. I think this is hilarious. I wasn't afraid because I had the dope hidden. That was 25 jars I went to pick up. We picked it up and my husband was driving. And he insisted on driving the truck with no tags. Or the tag expired. And I just knew we were going to get stopped. So I stopped at the grocery store, of course, and bought some food. And, put them in a bag and there's potatoes sticking out and stuff like that. Well, I put the stuff in the bottom. And, the old grocery trick. And it worked because cops stopped us. And I had this, I said, Tony, you shut up. Because he looks guilty.
Yeah, let me do all the talking.
I said, you let me talk. You just keep your mouth shut. And so he did. He followed. And I go, officer, it's my fault. I know. I just start booming out with talking. And I go, I'll make sure he gets them on Monday and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I think it's funny because I had it in there, but I wasn't scared. I was happy and joyful to talk to the cop. I wanted him to know it was my fault, not my husband's, that the tags weren't on there. You know, like a stupid wife. You know, I took the rap for all that. And the cop just laughed, you know. He didn't write him a ticket or nothing. And I go, I promise I'll get him now. You know. I mean, I could work the cops. They always let me do whatever I wanted to. You know, I mean, I was carrying dope right in front of them. And, you know, if you're nice and smile, they let you slide.
Nice and smile gets you a long ways in this world.
Get you a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smile gets you a mile.
Yeah.
Did you ever get caught with drugs?
No, never.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was so fortunate to have a good mouth. One was, I picked up some dope for some other people, and so I picked up quite a bit. And I had the kids with me. And boy, I didn't want to get caught. So I shoved it, you know, in places where you're not supposed to find it. And on a Volkswagen, that's a little rough, but I did it.
A little bug?
Yeah, a little bug, yeah. And so, yeah, that was a scary one for me because I had to move around to where I didn't see cops, you know, because they knew my bug, you know, because they stopped me in it a few times and wanted to date me. You know, a few different cops did. Jerks. You know, I'm not going out with you, I'm married. You know, and they wouldn't believe that either. One cop followed me home to know exactly where I lived. You know, he had my address. You know, I had a license. He took that.
Persistent.
It was crazy. So, yeah, I didn't want him to see me or catch me and stop me, nothing. So I went different routes to get home.
By the time Auntie was married to her second husband, she was really stepping up her drug dealing business.
We started selling cocaine. We sold drugs, and we were very good at it. And, I mean, we made money. And I can't blame my husband for that. You know, it was something we both decided together to do.
What was like at the peak of selling drugs, what is that like? Like, how do you juggle all of the people, the money, the worry about getting busted?
It's very hard.
It sounds stressful to me.
People lose it when they're taking the drug. You can't take the drug and sell the drug because you lose it. Everybody loses it because a man will, you know, jump in bed with any of the women. They take their steal dope, and that's a common thing. You know, is they'll steal it. They can get it. They take it and run with it. And the money, too, because you make a lot of money. You don't know where to stick it anymore because you got so much all over the place. You know, and you put it in socks. I mean, I found money in my husband's socks all the time. We're talking a couple grand, you know.
Because it's just flowing in.
Because you really need to have a bank account to put it in. But you can't do that, but, you know, because then the law will catch up with you. And that's how they do. You know, common sense tells me a lot of things. About traffic, you can't have traffic coming and going. So you have to make them stay for a certain amount of time. And then, you know, go quietly out, you know. And, you know, they weren't allowed to be loud over at my house. You know, cause any disturbances at all.
Yeah. So you weren't doing anything that caused a wrinkle that people could then point to.
Yeah, no wrinkles.
No wrinkles, wrinkle-free zone.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. There's an image of a preschool teacher, right? I mean,
yeah.
And it's one of nurturing kids.
Yeah.
It's of teaching,
yeah.
helping, and then there's an image of a drug dealer.
Yeah, and I still sold drugs.
And were you selling drugs during that time?
Yeah, but nobody knew that.
So how can you explain tightrope walking those two different worlds? Like how do you?
It wasn't.
How do you explain that?
I just did that in the evening. People would come to my house and I'd sell it to them, It was just, I could do it. I could handle it because I've kept my mind tight.
One of the things that I love hearing from you is the love that you have for your mother, right?
Yeah.
And the respect and also, doing right by her. You're going in your 40s to go back and get your high school diploma, right? To make good on a promise.
I promised and I did it.
Yeah. And so you're clearly a woman that these things are important to her, but at the same time, you know that drugs are ruining people's lives. Let's just say. And,
I watched it.
And yet you were a part of selling that. So how do you get your head around that? Did you ethically or morally just keep the drug selling in a box then, like it was something separated out from your life?
It was totally separate from my work, my family. I did it. My kids didn't know what I was doing. I didn't tell them. We just had a lot of friends drop by. And they knew we had a lot of friends. And a few of the parents of the classroom, they bought some even. And so I kept that quiet for them because I didn't want them to get in trouble. And that would bust me.
So it was a tight circle you were managing.
It was very tight and very quiet.
I want to ask a tough question, and I love you, so this is not a judgment.
I know.
But do you have any ill feelings about the ethical side of having sold drugs? Do you ever reflect, being a woman now of your age, do you look back on it and reflect?
I would do the same thing over.
Or here's another thing. Do you think your mother, if she was looking down, would say...
Oh, she'd be pissed. She'd pull me up and say, you're going to heaven right now or you're going to hell. Oh, yeah. I apologize to her every year on her birthday.
You apologize for having sold drugs.
I apologize for being a bad girl. Not for selling drugs. Not any of that. Because I did what I needed to do. And that's what I did. And I didn't hurt anybody. If it was bad dope, I didn't sell it, I wouldn't hurt anybody, and it probably did hurt some of them. And I didn't know about it, but I wouldn't purposely hurt anybody.
Yeah, I know that about you.
So...
When you say you apologize for being a bad girl, what does a bad girl mean?
A bad girl sells drugs. Yeah. A bad girl does bad things. And so I just apologize, and that's it.
So, Auntie, clearly all of this stuff is illegal. And how do you...
clearly.
Yeah, clearly. So how do you it's illegal, how do you...
Stay low.
How do you feel okay with it being illegal? How does that line... I feel like you and I
It's a little daring.
Yeah, but but it's okay to break the law.
For me,
How come?
Because I'm good at it, and I never got caught at all. Never.
Yeah, because you were good.
Because I was that good.
Yeah, but what about it just being wrong?
I don't think it's wrong.
To break the law?
It's not breaking the law to me. It's natural. It comes out of the earth. I should be able to do it.
So you're and I'm not saying that I don't do the same thing, right? Like when I'm on the freeway and the speed limit says 55 and I go 65,
yeah,
I'm breaking the law. I know
you're
that.
breaking the law.
So what I'm really saying in that moment is, I know the law says 55, but I don't think it applies to me right now, and it's not doing anybody any harm for me to go 65.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that how you feel about drugs?
Yeah. They're the same, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as I'm careful and I don't hurt people. I don't kill them, I don't overload them. Because people will take as much as you give them, or sell them. And
So
some people will take it all.
So
they shoot it up.
You were being careful with people.
Very careful.
Do you think, now this would cut into the profitability of selling drugs, but do you think drugs should be legalized?
Well, if it was, there wouldn't be so much shit going on. I'll tell you that. There wouldn't be as many homeless people. If put locations where people could do drugs, I think that would be okay. People could do it in their home, so it wouldn't be so bad.
Cut down on the crime.
I think it would totally cut down on crime. So, yeah, I don't think it was, they can control it just like they're controlling pot right now. And all the drug dealers shut down. They can't sell their pot anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people actually on the street that used to sell pot and are quite frankly pissed about it. So what you're saying is, if they can do it for pot, why don't they just do it for all the drugs?
Yeah, for everything. If they can control that, it's so good.
The product would be cleaner. You'd know it. It would be regulated.
Yeah.
And it could be controlled and taxed.
It would be better dope. They would, sell it at a good price, so you know that they're making money, good money on it.
Somewhere along the way, Auntie developed a taste for the drugs herself. She took speed, snorted cocaine, and later started to shoot it. Both of her marriages fell apart due to drugs and, of course, the chaos of that lifestyle.
And then my husband and I separated. And he was doing heroin. I tried it once and I hated it. I said, this is not for me. Well, husband and I broke up. We were married but we broke up after 5 years. After our marriage, we broke up. Because, he slept with everybody in town, mind you. I don't know what diseases he had or anything, but I'd never go back with him. Because once you do something, that's used meat, is what I call it, He had sex with every one of the girls. He was a used cock to me then. Used meat is what I call it.
Yeah.
When a man that you're married to, or a boyfriend, whatever, if they do somebody else, that's used meat. I don't want them. Mm-hmm. They stuck it somewhere they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's used meat.
That was over.
And I just walked out. Yeah, I just walked away.
Yeah.
I did that with all of them.
Yeah.
I just walked away from them, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want nothing.
You've had some rough relationships with men. Do you have
just those two?
Yeah, I don't mean rough physical, but just, I think your father obviously was out of bounds, right? Oh,
yeah, definitely, and drunk.
And tried to rape you.
Oh, yeah, I tried to, molest me, yeah.
Yeah, and, are men good people? Or
no, they're great. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was my own fault for getting in some of that trouble. It wasn't just theirs, it was me too.
Yeah.
I
takes two.
I was a good one for getting in trouble.
Yeah.
You want to fuck with me, I'll fuck with you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that?
What?
That you fuck with me, I'm going to fuck with you back.
Just my mouth.
It led you there.
And sometimes I had to prove it,
You gotta back it up once you said it.
Yeah, but I did it.
Now I said it. I gotta back it up.
Yeah, I gotta back this shit up, and I did.
Yeah. Part of what the You Know Me Now podcast is trying to do is, the reason I wanted to interview you is because I love who you are. I really do. I love our friendship, and I don't know. I enjoy talking to you, and I see the beauty in you, like who you are as a human.
And I know that, and I like that because you're not judging me.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. I'm glad you said that because that leads into actually my question, which is, the reason You Know Me Now is doing these podcasts is for other people to see the beauty in someone that they might normally just judge, right? So people are going to there are so many people that hear drug dealer, and they right away say they just check off my list.
Oh yeah, you're a dirty person. You're ugly.
Exactly.
You sell drugs to people. You kill people. No, I'm not a killer.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know.
So this is my question: what would you say to all those people who are judging you unfairly or incorrectly?
I just laughed at them.
Yeah. But Auntie, not just laugh at them, but what would you say to them like to say, hey, you know what, you're judging me incorrectly because what would you say? What would open their heart to actually see you differently?
Well, most people do not take the time to listen. I'm just a drug dealer. She just wants me to buy drugs from her, that the dealer's going to instantly, if they touch them, they're going to be high or something. And they do. And that's why you get judged so quickly.
Yeah.
But no, because of my mouth, people trust me. They let me into their home. And they don't judge me as a drug dealer. They don't see me as that because I don't portray that when I go into their home. I mean, really.
Yeah, it's interesting, like even before you told me your story, it would be easy to have put all these judgments together, right? But you have a really beautiful energy about you that disarms that quickly.
I put it out.
Yeah, and I think that's easily felt when you're near you. I wonder, what are the things that people need that aren't near you that need to hear about you? Like, how do you define yourself? Like, if you were to say in less than a minute, like, who is Auntie? Who are you?
Oh, Auntie's a friendly lady, Loves animals, helps people out if they need it.
The gardener.
Yeah, a gardener. My hobbies are, gardening, bowling. I enjoy doing that. And she's just an okay person. I'm okay, I'm normal and okay. That's all.
You're more than okay in my book, but...
Nothing special.
I actually think you are, but...
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Nothing special.
Yeah.
But I know that I have my armor around me as well as my generosity with my person,
Well, what did you say?
With energy.
You have your armor around you?
Yeah, I always have the armor around me. My armor suit.
Yeah, what does your armor look like?
Well, it's not guns and swords or anything like that. But it is, for I don't get hurt. Just, I don't suck into everybody's shit.
Yeah.
Because I know people's shit. I went through a lot. But I've always given. That's one thing I've always done. If somebody needed food, I'd make up food baskets right away. Take everything out of my house and give it to them. It wouldn't bother me.
Would you recommend to somebody that was 18 to follow the same path? Like, hold down a job, but then sell drugs on the side if they had your abilities?
If they wanted to, and if they had the right attitude. And
your answer is consistent with something you said earlier about, which is you don't really have any regrets. Like it feels like you followed your conscience. You had rules for yourself and you followed them.
Yeah.
And some of the behavior was doing illegal drug selling, but it fell into a view that said if you weren't harming somebody and you were taking care of the people that you were helping or serving drugs to, selling, it worked.
It worked. I functioned very well.
For a period of time, Auntie moved out of the state, first to Florida and then South Carolina. At that time, she was also experiencing a number of health issues. She had multiple leg surgeries, a knee replacement, and some serious back issues that took a toll and contributed to major chronic pain. A doctor in South Carolina talked Auntie into getting a pain pump that automatically dispensed Dilaudid, which is a synthetic narcotic in the opiate class of drugs, one that is highly addictive. During that time, to make matters even worse, Auntie was robbed in her home and severely injured. She spent a great deal of time in the hospital going through physical therapy, actually learning how to walk again. Ultimately, she ended up back in Seattle living with a relative, but that living situation was not working out. In fact, it was no longer safe for her to stay there. By then, the pain pump was also not working, and Auntie started to use small amounts of heroin to control her chronic pain problem. She did not want to be a burden on her children, So she bought an RV and started to live in it at the age of 64.
Yeah, I had the RV, and I lived in it for 3 years.
So like from 215 to 218, kind of in that.
Yeah. I met you right in that area. Yes, I was doing dope in there for a few years.
So this was Soto, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you what I remember how we met. Yeah. Dee had told me there was a woman that I should meet, and you were sitting on the back bumper of a guy's camper.
The truck. Yeah.
Yep. And you had said that a guy that you were staying with in an RV had beat you up.
He beat me up, yeah, Earl.
Yep.
Yeah, he put me under, he put my head under a blanket, and he come like this to my head, and he wanted to do it some more. Well, he let me walk back across the street, and he goes, "You get over to my camper right now, and you get in it." Yeah, right. That's just what I'm going to do.
Because I want more abuse.
Yeah, I want you to hit me some more.
Your heroin use was probably ramping up. You were starting to use more and more heroin?
No, I never went to more. I've always used 10 in the morning and 10 in the evening. I never ever used more than that.
I see. What does 10 mean?
10 is $10 worth. It depends on how much water you put into it. Is how many units you're doing, yeah. I just needed it for the pain, so it took the pain off.
Because the pain pump had stopped working.
Yeah, the doctor, he fired me.
Oh, that's right, because you stopped making payments on it.
Yeah, the payments, yeah.
So they just cut it off.
Yeah, well, it went when it ran out.
I see.
Yeah, and when it ran out, that's all you get. So that's why I went to heroin. I mean, I was in so much pain when the pump ran out. Oh, boy, did it hit me like a brick wall. Yeah. And
you had to go back to that.
So I just said, get me heroin. Get me some heroin. Because I knew that would take away the pain. So they went and got me some heroin.
So, what's interesting about hearing your story is that for whatever reason, I thought you had been homeless for years and years.
No.
But when I met you, you were really experiencing homelessness as a new part of your life. I mean, this was pretty new, a new chapter.
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Good, fine. I had to do what I had to do. You seen me.
You are just something else. Don't have time to worry about it. I got to do it.
Do it, yeah.
So, I mean, can you explain any of that? Like I know you're a can-do person, but
I had the RV, and then all these things were happening to me. I got my leg was broken. I was hit by the car for that, but just different things kept happening to my body. And people said she just won't die. The people down there.
I remember when I met you, right? You were in so much pain with your wrist, and I said you need to go to the ER. So I drove you.
Yeah, I said no, I don't want to.
To Harborview. No, I didn't take you to Harborview. To Virginia Mason.
Yep.
And I remember, I just met you.
Yeah,
20 minutes,
know. I just met you.
And we were on the freeway on I-5 heading north, and you rolled you said you look at me and you go, I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
You're in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh God, I just met this woman. She's gonna throw all over my car. So I quickly lowered the window, and you just kind of leaned your head out, and then you just threw up over the whole side of the car and out the window. And I remember there was a car in the other lane, and they were just looking over at you. Just thinking, okay, this is a scene.
Yeah. Let me get that on camera. splat on their windshield. Yeah, I had to. I wanted to go out a little further, but you told me not to. I remember that.
Yeah, well, I didn't want you to go out the window.
And then you said, I like you. Here I am puking on your car.
So after that, you didn't have an RV because when you when you were released from the hospital, I think you were there for a few days.
Well, yeah, they took the one away from me. The cops took it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then...
Did they take it away from you when you were...
I was in the hospital. I said 4 days and I was getting out.
And then when you got out, it was gone.
And they had taken it, yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I came to look for you after you got out of the hospital, you were down in Sodo along the railroad tracks there.
Yeah.
And there was a couch that you were...
there was a back seat.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the back seat of a car. It was sitting there.
Our RV.
Yeah, and I remember when I was talking to you, like asking you, where are you going to go? How are you going to do? And you said, well, I'm just going to sleep right here. And as you were saying it, I was looking over your head out to the west and out over West Seattle. There was a giant black rain cloud coming. And I remember saying to you, Auntie, it looks like it's going to pour rain here.
You're going to get wet.
What are you going to do? and when it starts raining and you look at me and go, I'm going to get wet.
Yeah, it's the truth.
I'm like, okay. But I, there were a couple other times I came to visit you when you were outside on the pavement in the winter, sleeping on cardboard. You had
that was over on Rainier.
Yep.
I had a couple of blankets. They were heavy.
And, yeah, but still, I really couldn't understand how you were doing it. And here's where I'm going with this, too, is leading to a question. The picture you just showed me of you, how old were you in that picture? You look pretty young.
Oh, I was like
19?
25.
25?
Maybe.
Right, like you look like you just gotten out of college. I look at that picture and I see a different person. And when you look back on your life, did you live the life you were going to live, or did it surprise you? Like, did you...
Oh, I got surprises, a bit. But...
I mean, could you have just as easily been a nurse at the hospital and lived that life?
I could have never been a nurse. Okay, but I could have easily been a machinist, or iron worker or something.
And been completely...
satisfied, yeah. But then I would have burned out on that, I guess. I have to have an adventure. I have to have something to do.
I'm just wondering how you ended up living this life. Like, what turned it to that? And I also
turned it to
a life of basically
a drug dealer,
and also a pretty
gypsy.
Well, when I saw you homeless, I mean, I really was worried for you.
Oh, I know.
Almost every night. I mean, you were really.
I got to a real low point. I know I did.
Yeah.
But I wasn't gonna quit.
Yeah.
I couldn't quit. I mean, I might have laid in the rain a little bit, but people would have taken care of me. I know that.
Yeah, you are such a survivor.
Yeah. You have to be.
Do you the life you have lived to this point, is it a life that you have any regrets with?
I'd do it again.
You do it exactly the same way. Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say, you said yes with a big smile on your face.
Yeah, because I would. Well, if I didn't live this life, I wouldn't have been there to do that. So, yeah, I enjoyed my life, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it, I can say something about what I did, with my life. It might have not been what they would have done, but it's what I did, And I would do it again, I don't want to sit on a pedestal and let somebody else do all what I need to do, And I guess that's the way I would say it. And you have to be tough. Any girl that is out there on the streets and in a home, they have to be tough or they're not going to make it. They have to be honest with themselves to say, if they're not tough, they'll lose. and they will lose that battle. If they don't get toughened up, they're just gonna, I don't want to say they're gonna be weak, but they're just not gonna have a fulfilled life of strength that they could have.
Like if there were 3 people here that they got to be a part of this conversation and you shared all this, that you were a drug dealer, and they were kind of really put off by all that. Like, what would you say to them to say, like, what would you
say? You don't know it unless you tried it.
Yeah.
And I say, don't put judgment on me. You have no right to, because they don't. I'd say that to anybody. This is what I did with my life. What did you do with yours? And I would ask them that. And I'd see what they said. And there's probably a lot of things they did that they don't think was bad. But to me, maybe it was. So I just never worry about things like that. I know what I've done. And I've done a lot of things.
I want to stop and take a moment to reflect on Auntie's question. A question really for all of us, which is, if you're judging my life, tell me what you have done with yours. She goes on to say, there are probably a lot of your actions that you don't think are wrong, but to her and to others, maybe they are. I don't think Auntie is just saying defensively, judging her is like the tea kettle calling the pot black. I think she is looking for more than that. She's pointing out that we all have parts of our lives that others disagree with, and that we should not simply fall into quick judgment. Rather, can we come together to find shared truth? I think it is at the center of why Auntie wanted to share her story. Life is always more complicated or gray than the black and white world we often want it to be. We do need each other and all our differing views to find our way through the gray. This conversation, for sure, is not meant to define the lines of right and wrong. That's for all of us to work through. Rather, it is just asking us to stop and reflect on the complexity of life and give space for each other on the issues we differ on. Drugs are a polarizing force in our society. Some believe there should be zero tolerance for drug users and dealers, while others, such as Auntie, believe that all drugs should be made legal. Listening to each other is the first step in finding the shared truth. Auntie feels she has lived a good life, guided by her love of people. She knows she has pushed the edges of what society approves of, but also that she has held true to her own sense of what is right and wrong, her own code of ethics. She says without reservation, she has no regrets. So you're 70 and you're going to live to 90, or maybe 100. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
114 is
114.
what my goal is.
All right, that's excellent. So that's 44 more years. What are you going to do?
I'm just going to be a good girl now. I'm not going to sell drugs, put it that way. But if I had to, I would.
Yeah.
I would. I'd be out there in a minute doing the same thing.
But you don't have to.
I don't have to, yeah.
So what, do you have goals? What do you want? I know you're a gardener. I know you love taking care of Bee and hanging out with Bee.
Yeah.
And you got lots of friends in this building, I know, because you make friends everywhere you go.
Like, I like to go on a cruise ship. I could talk that damn captain into letting me drive that boat.
You Know Me Now is produced, written, and edited by Tomas Bernatsky and me, Rex Holbein. We would like to give a heartfelt thanks to Auntie for sharing a little about herself with all of you. Join the conversation on the You Know Me Now Facebook page and our website at www.youknowmenow.com, where we have posted a short, humorous audio clip of when Auntie found out she had died. On our webpage are also other stories of folks we feel you should get to know. Thanks for joining in.